Organic versus conventional gardening. Does it really matter? That's the conversation we're going to have on today's episode of Homestead Coffee Talk. Thank you for joining me here at Blooming Wildwood Homestead. Grab your coffee, tea, water, whatever it is that you're drinking today, and let's dive into this conversation about organic versus conventional food. If you are someone who is into eating organic food, you would probably say, without even listening to the rest of the conversation, absolutely 100% it is important to eat organic food only. Conventional food is not the way to go. If you're someone who hasn't really taken this into consideration, you might not care one way or the other, and it might not be something that you're passionate about. If you're getting started with gardening, this is something you want to keep in mind before you even get started, because your choices as you're going throughout the gardening process are going to center around whatever your philosophy is, and your methods that you use are going to come back to the philosophy of what you believe is most important. So as we're getting ready to plan our gardens and really think about this upcoming growing season, I thought this was a good time to have a conversation about whether or not it's important to go with more organic, or whether it doesn't really matter one way or the other. What is the definition of the two types of gardening? With conventional gardening, you're able to use synthetic pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers to grow your plants. There isn't really any limitations on what you can use. As long as it's considered food safe, you're able to go ahead and put that on your garden, on your plants, in the area surrounding it without any problems. People are using pesticides to take care of pests on their plants, herbicides to take care of weeds and different invasive species of things that you don't want in your garden, and then of course fertilizers to feed the plants. With synthetic, it's something that can be created in a lab. It's not necessarily something that is organic or naturally found. It's something that they've put together and formulated for what is considered the best way to handle the situation. This method allows for seeds that have been genetically altered to be used as well. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are bioengineered, but they are selectively bred so that they have genetic alterations in order to maybe combat disease or different things of that nature. The organic gardening is a little bit more selective and a little bit more, there are more rules, I guess I would say, over what you can and cannot use if you are trying to do organic gardening. With organic gardening, it's basically the opposite of conventional. You're using things that are more natural. You're looking for ways to take care of the pests or feed your soil and your plants in ways that are going to be acceptable for the ecosystem and really try to keep things as natural as possible. You can buy organic seeds, which basically that just means that the organic seeds have been produced from plants that have gone through the organic farming methods, and the thought behind that is that the seeds will be more conducive to growing with organic practices in the future. So hopefully the plants will be a little bit more receptive to the organic processes that you're going to be using should you choose to go that route. So just looking at the two different definitions, there definitely is a difference between organic and conventional. I'm trying to present things in more of a non-biased way, but honestly, I tend to lean towards organic just because I believe that there are a lot of benefits to growing food organically. You want to make sure that what it is that you're putting into your body is as natural and helpful as possible versus something that maybe contains pesticides or residues that I just don't really want to be putting into my body, and you probably don't want to be putting into yours either. There have been a lot of debates about organic versus conventional, because I think organic has become this big buzzword that we hear everywhere. And I think that companies have really tried to use the word organic to their benefit, as a lot of times large companies do. When you start looking at foods that are processed, they're getting a label slapped on them that says organic, when not necessarily all of the ingredients are organic or organically grown. There may be different things added to that are not 100% organic, but because they meet some threshold that the FDA says is okay, they are able to use the organic label and then put that on the shelves and market it as such. Again, raising the price just because they put that organic label on there. And because of this controversy and because of how manufacturers or producers have really used the organic trend to their advantage, I think that it has caused a lot of people to say, it doesn't really matter, organic's not important. And I think we've lost the importance of that at the grassroots, homegrown level. I don't know what's in everything that I buy at the store. I don't have control over everything that I'm buying at the store. I'm not sure exactly how it's produced. I'm relying on someone to put a label on that and hoping that it is what they say it is, if that makes sense. When they have organic produce, a lot of times you see it marked up at least 50% more than conventional produce. And, you know, is that important? Well, that's a decision that you have to make yourself. When I'm purchasing produce from the store, I do try to buy organic produce, mainly because I'm concerned about the pesticides and things that are sprayed on plants. And that's a big issue. The actual nutritional value of the food itself may or may not really be different, but the other things that come with conventional farming, you're also getting that. The herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers, synthetic fertilizers, things that maybe aren't going to interact well with your body. That being said, whether you choose to purchase organic or not at the store, let's talk about growing food yourself. My grandma always used to say that if you don't grow it yourself, you don't really know what's in it. And I would say that is true more today than it even was 30 years ago when she would say these things. And so I want to make sure that I'm putting the best that I can into the plants that I'm growing in my garden, and I want to try and do it as naturally as possible. I think that's one of the beautiful things about raising your own food. You have control over the environment in which they're grown. You can try to make sure that the ecosystem around is as natural as possible. We want to make sure that we're encouraging good insects to come into the garden area. We want to encourage bees that are going to be pollinating our plants to come into the garden area. And we don't want to get rid of everything. With organic gardening, you are going to have different challenges than you would with conventional. You are going to have to deal with pests and weeds and fertilizers in a different way. And so this is really something that you're going to have to consider, and it might take you some time to learn. So if you decide to go the organic gardening route, don't start going down that road and then say it's just too hard and give up. It is going to take you some time to kind of work through some of the challenges that you're going to face along the way. But in the end, you're gonna end up with a really high quality food that you're gonna feel good about serving to your family and to yourself. So when it comes to the nutritional side of plants, it really isn't going to change the makeup of the plant if you use conventional or organic farming or gardening techniques. The main difference is what is put and applied to the plant, and that's what's going to make the difference as far as what you're putting into your body. Plants pull their nutrients from the ground, so it only makes sense if you are spraying the plant and the surrounding area with synthetic fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, that's going to be taken up into the plant itself, and then you're going to be eating that. Now, there are different plants that take up different amounts of pesticides, and that's something that you can look at and research a little bit more on your own, and I do encourage you to do that. For today's purposes, we're really mainly focusing on just the difference between the two. According to the UC Davis health article, good food is good medicine, some of the studies have shown that increased pesticide exposure can increase the number of children with ADHD and autism. And I do think that we are seeing a definite rise in the number of kids who are exhibiting signs of these conditions. Many kids are struggling with ADHD or ADHD-like symptoms, and many more youngsters are being diagnosed with autism as well. So is that completely from pesticide exposure? I don't know, but it definitely is a contributing factor. The article also states and cites some studies where pesticide exposure has also been linked to increased risk for cancer as well, and some cancers have actually been caused by pesticides and the food that's being eaten. So with all this in mind, as you are considering getting your garden established for the year, start looking at ways that you maybe could go with more of an organic growing method. It does have a lot of challenges, yes, but I think you're going to be really happy with what you are putting into your body and just the difference in how food tastes and the quality of the food overall. I mean, nothing beats homegrown produce, no matter what method you're using, but organic is definitely better for you and better for the ecosystem around you. And so I really hope that you can be encouraged to look for some ways to do organic gardening yourself. Now, it doesn't mean that you're gonna be 100% perfect in every area. You are growing it for your own use, but if you try and make choices that are going to help you be as organic as possible, you're going to see a lot of the benefits. Here at the Homestead, we try and grow as organically as possible. There are challenges with organic gardening, but I hope that you will see the benefits outweigh the challenges. And if you keep a growth mindset, it's going to help you to learn more, and you're going to be able to move ahead and just produce food that is high quality and nutritious without a lot of the risks of what you can get with conventional gardening. So I want to encourage you to look into going the organic route if you haven't already, and just try and make choices that are going to move you in that direction if you have not thought about doing organic gardening in the past. I hope today's coffee talk was helpful to you. If it was, don't forget to click like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you back here for next week's video. Bye everyone.